Hi, my friends. Are we excited to finish chapter 14? It was just getting really good. Matilda was using her magic, the magic she felt in her eyes, to see if she could tip the glass over. Tip it, Matilda whispered. Tip it over. She saw the glass wobble. It actually tilted backwards, a fraction of an inch, then righted itself again. She kept pushing at it with all those millions of invisible little arms and hands that were reaching out from her eyes, following the power that was flashing straight from the two little black dots in the very centers of her eyeballs. Tip it, she whispered again. Tip it over. Once more, the glass wobbled. She pushed harder still, willing her eyes to shoot out more power. And then, very slowly, so slowly she could hardly see it happening, the glass began to lean backwards, farther and farther backwards, until it was balancing on just one edge of its base. And there it teetered for a few seconds before finally toppling over and falling with a sharp tinkle onto the desktop. The water in it and the squirming newt splashed out all over Miss Trunchbull. The headmistress let out a yell that must have rattled every window pane in the building, and for the second time in the last 5 minutes, she shot out of that chair like a rocket. The newt clutched desperately to her smock, where it covered her great chest, and there it clung with its little claw-like feet. The Trunchbull looked down and saw it, and she bellowed even louder with a swipe of her hand, she sent the creature flying across the classroom. It landed on the floor beside Lavender's desk, and very quickly she ducked down and picked it up and put it in her pencil box for another time. A newt, she decided, was a useful thing to have around. The Trunchbull, her face more like a boiled ham than ever, was standing before the class, quivering with fury. Her massive bosom was heaving in and out, and the splash of water down the front made a dark, wet patch that had probably soaked right through to her skin. "Who did it?" she roared. "Come on, own up. Step forward. You won't escape this time. Who is responsible for this dirty job? Who pushed over this glass?" Nobody answered. The whole room remained silent as a tomb. Oh my goodness, look at that. "Matilda," she roared, "it was you. I know it was you." Matilda, in the second row, sat very still and said nothing. A strange feeling of serenity and confidence was sweeping over her, and all of a sudden she found that she was frightened by nobody in the world. With the power of her eyes alone, she had compelled a glass of water to tip and spill its contents over the horrible headmistress. And anybody who could do that could do anything. "Speak up," roared the Trunchbull. "Admit that you did it." Matilda looked right back into the flashing eyes of this infuriated female giant and said with total calmness, "I have not moved away from my desk, Miss Trunchbull, since the lesson began. I can say no more." Suddenly, the entire class seemed to rise up against the headmistress. "She didn't move," they cried out. "Matilda didn't move. Nobody moved. You must have knocked it over yourself." "I most certainly did not knock it over myself," roared the Trunchbull. "How dare you suggest a thing like that? Speak up, Miss Honey. You must have seen everything. Who knocked over my glass?" "None of the children did, Miss Trunchbull," Miss Honey answered. "I can vouch for it that nobody has moved from his or her desk all the time you've been here, except for Nigel, and he has not moved from his corner." Miss Trunchbull glared at Miss Honey. Miss Honey met her gaze without flinching. "I am telling you the truth, headmistress," she said. "You must have knocked it over without knowing it. That sort of thing is easy to do." "I am fed up with you useless bunch of monkeys," roared the Trunchbull. "I refuse to waste any more of my precious time in here," and with that she marched out of the classroom, slamming the door behind her. In the stunned silence that followed, Miss Honey walked up to the front of the room and stood behind her table. "Whew," she said. "I think we've had enough school for one day, don't you? The class is dismissed. You may all go out into the playground and wait for your parents to come and take you home." Wow. All right, that was the end of chapter 14. Next chapter tomorrow is called The Second Miracle. And let's see. It's actually a short one, so we should be able to get through the whole thing tomorrow. All right, have a great day.